Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back to the show. We're coming to you on a warm Wednesday evening. I'm happy to see the sunshine rolling in, my friend. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. We've had some really nice weather over the past couple days, so no complaints from me. I think spring is here. Spring has sprung.
Spring has sprung in the best of ways. I'm seeing the little sprouts in the alleyway. Everything's looking all green and luscious. So yeah, I'm just excited for the warm weather. Excited to get back out in the world, as it were. But what's going on in the world of Mr. Aaron? What have you been up to, dude?
It's been a little bit going on since this past week. We had April Fool's Day, which I got tricked by some tweets, which was fun, I guess.
Isn't that all April 1st is for now? Is just like companies to fuck with you?
Yeah, pretty much is what it seems like.
When was the last time a person pranked you?
College. It was actually a pretty good prank too. A couple of girls who are in our group of friends decided to list things for, I forget if it was for sale or for free on Craigslist, with our phone numbers. So like they listed an Anaheim Ducks jersey for me, like for sale in like California. They listed a free bicycle for our one roommate in New York City. Like just a bunch of different stuff.
Damn.
And so all of a sudden, just on like, it was like midnight going into April Fool's Day, my phone just starts blowing up with these random messages and like from people I have no idea the numbers. I was so confused.
Holy shit.
I was like, what is going on? And we finally pieced it together, figured it out, and because we started asking these people that were messaging us, like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Or like, I don't know what you're talking about. And and so people were like, oh, you posted this ad on Craigslist for whatever. Like, is it not still available? And we're like, no, we didn't post that.
It never was available, sir. Sorry.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. That's hilarious. That's actually good on them. And that's not like violent. It doesn't like ruin anything.
Oh,
that's awesome.
No, we got them back though because we decided to sign them up to have the Mormon, or no, what was it? Jehovah's Witnesses come to. We like went to the Jehovah's Witness website or something like that. And we're like, oh yeah, we're interested in like more information, and put their address. So we kind of sent it back to them. They had Jehovah's Witnesses coming and knocking on their door, asking them if they had time to talk and whatnot. So
I had to be very very mean to what seemed like a Jehovah's Witness recently. They knocked on the door at our old apartment, and I was just like, what are you doing? I don't got time for this shit. Get out of here.
During a pandemic too. That's like, even like I don't want it anytime. I don't want people like bugging me, knocking on my door randomly, doing that stuff. But like, during a global pandemic, pretty not good, I would say.
Can we rework the words to green eggs and ham to Jehovah's Witnesses? No, sir, no Jehovah's Witnesses. Not in a house, not under a mouse. Don't witness anything for me. I don't want, something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure you could put something together. It wouldn't
house
be
and a mouse.
Just switch it up. I'll get the books. We can go through, cross out what's in there, and just put our own words.
It'd be a remix.
Green eggs and ham remix for the Jehovah's
featuring the Jehovah's Witnesses. And then it'd be even more lit, fam, if we had them on the song with us.
Oh, well, it's
like a collabo, you know.
So we're gonna like get a studio sesh to read the remixed green eggs and ham.
Yeah. I think we got to get in the stew.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. We gotta Get cooking. Yep.
But yeah, I don't even know how we got off onto that topic. Well, I was talking about April Fool's Day pranks, but the one that did get me, Twitter sent us a notification through the Tall and Short of It Twitter, which is at Tall and Short of 1, the number 1 on twitter.com. And it said Alpine signs Pierre Gasly for 2022. And the tweet that they had based this off of and sent and like given us a notification about was like Alpine Formula One with a little like symbol next to it that looks like a blue, like looks like the verification for Twitter. But it wasn't. It's just a number 7 in a white ball emoji that people randomly do to fuck with people. And it was just a like troll Twitter account that had posted this Photoshop picture of Pierre Gasly and Alpine like jumpsuit and everything. And Twitter sent us the notification for it. I'm like,
dude.
I pulled it up. I was like, this picture looks kind of weird. I was like, maybe they like photoshopped it because obviously he wouldn't be in an Alpine jumpsuit like for a photo shoot or whatever. And then I look and see, and I'm like, all right, come on, Twitter. On April Fool's Day, really? You're falling for this?
Right.
So,
goddamn Twitter. Yeah, goddamn.
That was the one that got me this year.
Was there anything that got me? The makers of Grim Dawn put out an article that they were making the follow-up to Grim Dawn was going to be basically like a cannibalism simulator where they were like taking like a character that was in the game and like giving him his whole like a whole expanded like full title, and it was going to be, if I understood the article correctly, it was going to be like The Sims but like cannibalism.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I read that. I was like, what the fuck? And then I saw like all the other things. I looked at the date and I was like, oh, okay, well there we go. But I was like, man, that's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Well, it's such a weird day in general, especially on the internet, because companies still tweet out legitimate news and things like that on it.
Right.
Like, the University of North Carolina's basketball coach, who I think has been there for like 33 years. He's like easily a college basketball Hall of Fame like coach. They tweeted out his retirement on April 1st. I'm like, I was like, I'm just gonna have to wait till tomorrow to know if this is like real or not.
Right.
But apparently it was.
The next day.
Apparently it was, but I'm like, why? Why do you choose to post this like really big news on April Fool's Day? Like, your social media manager fired, gone.
Yeah, that seems kind of risky.
I feel like it's just like unaware. And you have to be more aware of those things when you're managing social media and doing those things. Like, especially for a big company, yeah. Yeah, or like big university, big company, big game, whatever. It's, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird day. But then we had the Easter weekend, so I got to see you for a few minutes, drop off some cards, spend some time with the family.
That was fun.
So pretty solid weekend. Yeah. Did you end up doing anything for Easter? I forget if you said or no. No. I actually had to ask a client that week. I was like, wait, what is Easter celebrating again? Like, I forgot. She thought I was crazy. She was like, wait, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I don't even know. And she was like, wait, when like Jesus rose, and what about the bunny?
Well, that's what I said to her then. I was like, oh, yeah, when the Easter Bunny found Jesus in the cave, and she was like, yeah, I suppose.
Did you actually say that?
Yeah, I mean, she's one of my longest clients where, she knows I'm stupid, so that's okay.
Not stupid, just not religious. So It's not really much of a holiday for you in that.
So, yeah, needless to say, it was just a Sunday for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, shout out to you for those cards, man. Big help. They're all sorted and put away.
I was in the area. It worked out really well.
Very well.
my mom wanted me to come for Easter lunch, and so I was like, hey, why not? I'll drop off the cards, knock out 2 things, see my boy, have a nice Sunday. So
2 birds, 1 stone. It's always a good route to go.
Yeah, I didn't want to put it that way because I'm like, I wasn't just trying to like check things off my list. It just worked out that could do both.
Oh, dude, I'm happy to be just a notch on a to-do list, man. That's fine.
No, I'm saying that's not. That's why I didn't want to say it that way. Because
it's okay. Not. Even if I'm at the bottom, that's all right. I'm on the list. You know, that's
fair,
fine.
That's fair.
Yeah, man. I think we got a good show. We didn't have any F1 this past weekend, but you know, that's okay.
No, just a couple of little like articles that I had seen during the week. But just as a reminder to everyone, not this 2 days from now, Friday, but the following Friday, we're going to have FP1, FP2 for the Italian Grand Prix at the, I'm going to butcher this, D'Emilia Romagna, I think is how you pronounce the track. So
sounds better than I would have done. Yeah, the track at Imola.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good weekend, hopefully, for racing. I did mention briefly to you that I wanted to talk about the Sky Sports article about Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, let's get into it right off.
Yeah, so there was this article basically said that Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes team are excited to have a duel at the top with Red Bull and with Max for the driver's title and the Constructors' Championship. And I kind of just personally think that's a little bit of bullshit. I think they're pandering a little bit, and not that I think any team that was in Mercedes' position would do the same. I don't think that it's Mercedes is like saying the wrong things. I think anyone would say that. But I just kind of think that it's a little fake in the sense that if I'm at the top, I want to keep being at the top. If I'm the best in the world, like not trying to have competition to potentially lose that. I would much rather just be a step up on my competition. And I mean, even last year when Mercedes was easily the best and Lewis was best by a decent reach, there were still races that things got shaken up. There was a Pierre Gasly win. There were all these different things that happened just because of craziness with pit stops and punctures and tires and different things shake it up. But I think at the end of the day, if I'm in Mercedes' spot, I'm not trying to have a tight competition for it. So that might be my own personal, like, I would just want to win. You get more money, you get more acclaim. I don't know.
I'm not so sure that winning and good competition on the route there have to be mutually exclusive. It seems reasonable to me to guess that even Lewis could get bored behind the wheel. Now, does he? No, I don't know. Do we have proof of that? Not necessarily. But what I'm getting at is you just want to... You're in F1 because you want to race the best F1 drivers in the world. You want to race the height of competition. I don't think Lewis is there for like some vacation at the top.
No, definitely not. And I don't think that F1 would ever get to a point where it was like impossible for Mercedes to lose or anything like that. They have rules and regulations that keep it close enough.
A little bit of technical difficulties there. It seems like Yarok and Craig bounced out, but we should be good here for the rest of the episode now. Before we left, we were talking about Lewis and Mercedes not wanting Red Bull on their heels.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, the one side of it that I can see Mercedes being more comfortable with it with this title fight is it is more attractive for fans. It does make it more exciting if it's just Mercedes winning by a lot every single race. It's not as fun. It's not as exciting. Everyone knows what's going to happen. So, in that sense, I see this being a definite positive for F1 as a whole. I just wonder if Mercedes feels like they actually could lose this, if that makes sense. Like, is this said from a place of kind of confidence that they'll be able to pull out another title, but with a closer season, or
They might be shook.
I think that might be. I think it would be more concerning for me than eagerness for competition if they didn't feel confident that they could still win, and they still could. I mean, they won the first race; they got first and third. So obviously, there's still good potential for them to get the title, but I think it's a little. It would be more concerning to me if I were in their position.
Yeah, okay. That seems like a little bit more of a reasonable take. So maybe they're a little more scared of Red Bull and they're just like, oh, yeah, it should be a good fight at the top. Yeah, it should be some good competition, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. Because, yeah, the Red Bull showing at Bahrain was incredible.
I think if Sergio's able to have a better qualifying performance, which I think he will, I think he'll settle into the car and be at least up into that top 6, 7. I mean, he finished what was it, 5th after starting in 20th from the pit lane.
Yeah.
So I think that'll pull a lot more competition into things over the next couple races. I'm just excited for the next race though. It's gonna be good.
Well, so am I. I think says super excited about the prospect. Like I'm kind of with you. I can't see him being like, "Oh yeah, man, I just love having my fucking ankles bitten." Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It does seem a little like you were kind of getting at, like disingenuous. And the thing that I see is like, all right, so we have a 24-hour media cycle. We have this racing series that's separated by weeks in between the big races. So, I mean, who wrote this? I would love to see who wrote this, but like my man's got to eat too. You know what I mean?
That's
so true. The thing that I think about is, do they just, have a question, they throw it out to them, and Mercedes kind of has to answer. You can't be a no comment company in a sport that's so like the sponsorship is so important, where like you can't be saying nothing about things. So
yeah, and I think also in a sport where it's a much smaller sport than most other sports, there's a lot less teams competing, as opposed to like Major League Baseball or NFL or hockey, where there's 30, 32 teams.
And hundreds of players. Like there's 20 people to worry about. Like a little bit of it seems to me like trying to cook up a story out of nowhere. And unfortunately, that may just be my take for a lot of F1 stories. I feel like overall I'm just like unbothered in life. I'd rather just see the races. I'd rather just see, say it on the track kind of thing. I'm not really for the bullshit. But does Mercedes actually want a fight with Mercedes? No. Do I think they want some show matches? Like they do for like senior night kind of thing, where it's like, oh, let's get Exeter football over here, have our juniors and seniors whoop up on them, and that's gonna be the game for the night.
Show out, make it a little exciting, add some drama to it a little bit.
Right. Something tells me Mercedes wants a little bit of the porridge that's on the middle table, like right there in the Goldilocks zone.
I feel you. I think that's not it's not outrageous. I thought it was interesting the way it was phrased, and I was like, I had some thoughts on it.
I mean, to your point though, like, yeah, I think they could easily just be shook and like, oh fuck, these guys look really good.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, yeah, we have to respond to this media request kind of thing, and we need to give them something. We're not gonna talk trash on our opponents, so let's.
That's another thing. They're not just outright gonna be like, yeah, it was a good showing at Bahrain, but quite frankly, Red Bull is trash, Max sucks, Checo can blow me. And then they just fuck off the stage. They're not going to do that either.
Yeah, but man, would that be an article?
That'd be fucking hilarious, man.
That would be quite an article.
I'd put that on a shirt, dude. Checo can blow me.
Oh, when we make it to our first F1 race, I'm going to get a custom-made t-shirt for you.
Oh, man, I'd wear that. I think that'd be hilarious.
That would be entertaining.
I'm not even salty on the guy either. I like him.
I know. It's just funny. But the other article that I saw that I thought was interesting was this article about the sprint qualifying. And so I hadn't really gotten. I know we had talked about it a little bit with like what their thoughts were on how they would do it and everything, but they laid it out, I think, a little bit better.
Well, and it seems like it's getting closer to like actually like coming to fruition, like being a thing.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of. I'd be interested to hear if anyone listening has thoughts on it, but just for you and me thinking about it, it basically says Friday you would have sprint qualifying. So I guess like a practice and then this practice and then regular qualifier. So they would go through the standard qualifying procedure. All the teams do that. And then on Saturday they would have the sprint qualifier where whatever position each racer finished in the standard qualifying would start in that position for a 5-10 lap race, and then from there the standings based on that would then go into the race day on Sunday. So
the more I think about it, what are the benefits of the sprint? Does it reveal? What does it tell us about the weekend? What do we learn?
Well, so I think the thing for me is it gives extra opportunities for drivers to actually be placed in different positions based on their competitive driving, I guess, as opposed to more of an open the open qualifying where they're not wheel to wheel. They're just everyone's getting out of the other person's way and people are just zipping around, like going on their out lap and then taking their flying lap and just going and everything. I think this shows, I mean, we saw races last season. We saw races where Kimi Räikkönen gained 10 spots in the first lap of the race. And it gives opportunities for people who are good at starting and for people who are like to drive side by side, have that competitive racing from the start to potentially improve or I guess, worsen their placement for the race, which I think it adds some intrigue a little bit.
What drivers do you think may benefit from this?
I would say veteran drivers primarily. I think that someone like Kimi Räikkönen, someone like Sergio Perez, someone like Sebastian Vettel, like they have had so much experience in racing that I think they have a little bit of an upper hand from the starts of a race normally. So I think it gives an opportunity. And I mean, we even saw it with Yuki. I think he dropped a few places right off the start of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and I think it favors experience a little bit in that sense, but could also just favor people who are willing to drive aggressively. Could favor someone who's willing to just go balls to the wall from the start, try and put themselves in a better position. High risk, high reward. If you gun it out of the start, try and make up places, and then crash out and end up P20, like there's a lot of risk there. But if you can gun it out of the start, get a good start, pick up a couple spots, maybe you would have started 12th after qualifying, but maybe you're up into 8th after the sprint race because you were able to get a good start, you were able to make a run at it, you know?
So then what is I'm trying to think then which one's the real qualifier? Which one's the one we really care about? Or do your places get aggregated into like an average?
So the way it seems is the qualifying that we have now, that they would do on Friday instead of Saturday, would only matter in regards to position for the sprint race.
Right. Okay. So then the actual qualifier then
would
is
be the sprint race. Yeah.
Now, do we get points for the sprints?
Nope. Just positions.
Then there really is no...
I think it just shakes things up more than anything.
Would it, though? I'm not convinced that it would.
I mean, there have been times where we've seen drivers get really good starts and get jumps on people and things like that and shift their positions. We saw Ferrari with Charles Leclerc jump up to like 3rd, I think, at the beginning of the Bahrain Grand Prix from maybe like 6th or 7th in a Ferrari car that wasn't quite that caliber. He could have been starting, if that had been a sprint race by the end of 5 laps or so, he could have been up to like 3rd, 4th on the grid to start the actual race. So I don't see it as good or bad necessarily because there is obviously that like risk reward. Do you want to try and be super aggressive and potentially, I don't know, bump tires, spin out, put yourself in a really bad spot? Or, I mean, you could do the same thing and potentially jump a couple of drivers ahead of you and be in a even better spot for the race. I think more than anything, it just adds some interest and makes it a little bit different. Whether or not it's good or bad, I don't think that. I don't see it as either like good or bad for F1.
Right.
So.
Sprint race.
Yeah. And I also think that we won't really fully know.
And for this year, they're just testing it.
I think so. And I was trying to look through the article. I don't think it said any of the races or like if there were certain races that they were considering it for or anything like that. I don't think that they have any of that set in stone. But it also could potentially draw additional viewership, which I think is interesting because I'm sure a lot of people probably don't watch just regular qualifying. I'm sure there's a decent number of people who do, but I'm sure that not 100% of the people who are watching the race are watching qualifying the day before, watching the practice sessions and things like that. I think on the F1 side, an extra day where there's a real competitive kind of racing setup like that could
bring more viewers.
Potentially.
Interesting. Now, I'm seeing at the bottom, it says the current plan would see points allocated to the top 3 finishes in the Saturday sprint race.
Yeah, it does say that.
So then there would be vested interest in playing the game, and like that's my concern is like what other benefit do these racers have to like really going for it?
Yeah.
If that's not their, their strategy or their strong suit. And I think what would make this a little more appealing to me is very similar to like CS:GO, where they like vote on maps. I think it would be, depending on the track, you would have varied qualifying.
Yeah.
So it's not the same thing every week, and then different drivers have so then the different skill sets can shine, right?
True.
Because then maybe then Lewis isn't that good at a sprint race, and like Vettel and fucking Mick Schumacher and fucking Danny Ricciardo are all the because then it's another element of conversation and strategy, like, oh, well, they may be top of the boards now, but blah, 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 blah is really good in the sprint races, and that's what we have this weekend. So where you could previously expect, like, P7, maybe we can expect a blah, blah, and then it's like blah, 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 blah. So I think it would be interesting if they could make it such where it increases competitive stratagem, I'll say. I think that would be fun and interest me as a viewer.
Gotcha.
Rather than just like, here's some change for the sake of change, my friend.
So maybe like how they do with qualifying, where whatever tires you start on in what Q3 or whatever you have to use for the start of the race, or do something like whatever tires you start or you use for the sprint qualifier you have to use to start the race. So there's some tire there, there's some like,
what if you went the other way? So the tire that you start with in the sprint race, you have to start at the opposite end of the spectrum for the race. So let's say your strategy is, I'm going to go on reds. You have a solid qualifier on Friday. You say, I'm going to go on the reds and just kill these 4 laps, right?
Yeah.
You get out there in front, but because you went and dove in the sprint race, you got to start on the hards on the race.
That'd be interesting. It definitely would shake things up. But yeah, I'm just like, I think I'm just intrigued by the idea. I think it would be an interesting addition. Yeah. And I think they're only looking at potentially doing it for 3 races this year. So,
yeah, as like a test.
Right. So 3 races out of 23. Is that what we're at this year?
Yeah, I don't think that's that bad at all. Like, no, and it wouldn't chat me in the slightest.
Yeah, I think it would give a good opportunity to kind of feel it out, see if it's worthwhile, see maybe what changes they can make to it to make it more interesting, or to shake things up a little bit. And then who knows, maybe it flops and they're like, oh, nope, not doing this. Or maybe it's really successful and teams like it and gives a good opportunity to do in the future.
Yeah, it could go either way, honestly. I don't really have a good like barometer of the like where F1 fans generally lie on stuff like this. So, let us know what you guys think. But Yeah, it seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I think experimenting is fine as long as there's some, as long as there's like some competitive reason for it. Some, like we think I don't know. I just usually prefer a reason.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not just doing things for the sake of doing them.
Yeah, because like to be fair, as a new fan, like to see something that seems very core to the sport and has been very core to it, and something that I've actually taken to enjoy, like you said, a lot of people probably just watch the race, they tune in, like they don't even care about what happened at practice, they don't watch qualifiers, and they watch the race or whatever it is. But I've come to understand that the qualifiers are an important part of the race. So as a fan, I would actually be kind of like, oh, well, now you're just like taking it away. Like, God, this was a bad time to get into it. Then I guess if you like that qualifying, which is why I said like have both or come up with another qualifying thing. So then you have 3 variations of it, and then it's like a thing.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Seems fine to me though.
Yeah, and I think the current qualifying is fine, and not that I don't think I think there are a lot of people that watch qualifying and pay attention to that, but because it does make such a big impact on the actual race itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are a lot less people who view that live or are like actively paying attention to that than the race. Maybe like, I don't know, 75% of the fans watch both qualifying and the race, and then the other 25% just watch the race. Or
that's still whatever. A pretty good chunk though, right?
I'm just guesstimating. I feel like in F1 fans are a lot, I feel like there are a lot less casual fans of F1 than for some other sports. Like for the NFL.
Explain.
Well, for instance, the NFL, like everything's geolocated, and I mean, some of the teams for F1 are geolocated as well, but I don't think you necessarily, growing up, you're like, I'm from the UK, I'm gonna root for Mercedes, or I'm from Hungary, I'm gonna root for Red Bull, I think that even though these teams have their own locations for their home operations and things like that, it's not like the NFL where if you're from Los Angeles, you're a Chargers fan. If you're from Philadelphia, you're an Eagles fan.
It tends to be the norm.
And if you're in a city with a big sports team like the NFL, on a Sunday during the NFL season, most people are just at a bar watching all the games. They're chilling on the couch watching their games, just waiting for their team to come on. And so it draws additional viewership for teams just by being there, essentially.
Right.
Whereas F1, I think you actively, other sports, you have tons of home games every year and plenty of away games, so you get to actually see your team live. Like with F1, you typically have like one race in your country and then they're out. So like if you're actively trying to watch and follow F1 compared to other sports, I think that you have to be decently more attentive to it. There are lots of changing time zones for races. People who are watching the U.S. Grand Prix down in Texas, if you're from Russia, if you're from Eastern Europe, if you're from even the UK, depending, like, that's a night race, even though it's daytime down in Texas when they're racing.
Right.
There are a lot of those factors that I think make F1 more difficult to follow. So if you are a fan of it, it is a lot. I think your fandom is a lot, not more fanatical, but you're just more invested in F1 than the major.
If I may, it sounds like it sounds like you're saying you have to be more tuned in because you're not just gonna pick it up in particulates, like just like oh, the buddies that you're with were watching the same night of games that you were, and it's like, oh, and you talk about the this and that and that.
Right. So, for instance, I was this past football season, I was walking from my job to lunch. I went to the Qdoba down the street to get myself a little...
Right, and you just like hear it in the...
I bumped into a random DoorDash bicycle delivery guy, and he's like, so how about them Eagles? I'm like, yeah, man, how about them Eagles? They got that win that, like...
Right.
I can't just walk up to someone randomly on the street and be like, yo, Max Verstappen, how about that guy?
That's true. Interesting. Okay, so you have to be a little more intentional with the fandom, depending where you are in the world. Especially where we're at in the world, it's not like the most popular thing.
Right.
And yeah, if that were the case, if I would be a big Haas fan right now and wondering why F1 was such a shitty sport and why Mercedes wins everything.
Yeah, and so like that's why I would say I think range on the higher percentages for people who tune into qualifying and the race.
Right.
I think that people are more tuned in, like the way you put it, to kind of pay attention more to the sport and follow it along more closely.
No, that's actually a really good point. Because, yeah, I do find myself having to, like, I actively have to be looking into it and looking for it. Because, like, yeah, nobody else around me is going to be like, oh, yeah, man, turn 3, that's some bullshit,
I plan my weekends around F1. I don't have to plan my weekends around NFL. I can just I can just plop down on the couch, hit the...
And it just happens.
It's like, it's there from noon till, like, fucking midnight.
Crazy, man.
But yeah, I think overall, kind of getting back to the sprint qualifying, I think it would shake things up. And I'm just interested to see how it works out, if it is going to be a positive or if it's just something that they're like, hey, we tried it and didn't really do much, so maybe we'll figure something else out. So
right. I'm curious what spurred the initial like exploration of a change, or if that's just the natural course of things.
I feel like there's got to be in some way there has to be someone that's just like, hey, like, why don't we shake things up? It's been this way for so long. What can we do to change it?
Yeah. Like, I'm curious, what if there's like lobby groups within like the FIA power structure
that are pushing for... I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if there's some sort of agenda behind it. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe F1 teams get... I don't know how contracts the league is set up, but maybe F1 teams get a higher percentage or get a certain percentage of money from broadcasts and viewership. So like if there's a way maybe there are people who are trying to be like, well, if we boost viewership for this other day, we get more money from people watching it, so that's more money in our pocket. Or I honestly don't know. But
yeah, it could be a multitude of factors.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it could just be like, hey, intern, what kind of ideas do you got? And they're like, let me tell you. Just coming up with new ideas. I don't know.
Well, what's funny though is on the F1 game, the like standard for like the short career thing, like the short career game path, the races are only 5 laps. So it's clear that like that's in the heads of people there, right? It's not like it's not like shorter races are like a novel idea or anything. But yeah, I'm just curious like what brought, because if little if we're hearing about the conversations about a sprint race, you have to feel like it's pretty close to the surface.
Oh, definitely. It has
you
to,
know what I mean?
This has to, and I think it's been something that has been brought up a number of different times. I'm pretty sure that this has been proposed, and there's another article here that I thought I glanced at that I thought might have said it. But yeah, I think in a couple of different years this has been proposed and been shot down. So I think that this, who knows where it came from initially, but it is something that's been discussed before in F1, and now this year they're like, maybe we'll give it a shot.
So it is some weird like lobby thing then. Like some group within wants this to happen.
Right. And I think previously it's typically been shot down by the majority of teams. I think they were kind of like, nah, we're not doing it. So.
Interesting.
It is. It's a weird thing. I can't even imagine how those conversations have to go behind the scenes. That has to be kind of a weird spot to be in, but I guess we'll see how that goes if they end up doing them this year, where they end up doing them this year. It'll be cool, something different. So
yeah, definitely. Before we move on to off racing, anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Extreme E rally that was in Saudi Arabia this past weekend.
Yes, definitely.
So overall, I didn't see the whole thing, but I watched some of the qualifying and I watched like the later half of the race I caught, and some production issues, some car issues, some interesting things. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty cool. It
was, but it didn't hook me like F1 did.
No.
I think it's still a really cool idea, and watching the races, it was interesting. Like, I'm gonna have to go back through and watch, check out some of the other. There have been a couple other races already, right?
No, that was the first one.
Oh, that was the first one. Yeah. So I'll have to be tuned in for other ones, because it was interesting how they set it up with the qualifying being like 3 cars against each other. Mm-hmm. And I think also the desert track was difficult with how much sand and dust got kicked up. Like, the one wreck that happened that I saw in the highlights of it was like brutal, and it was all because there's just so much sand being kicked up that no one can see anything. I can't even imagine being one of those drivers and trying to figure out like where the flags and the zones are. The drifting though for turns was pretty sick.
Sure. They're just like kicking around them. It does look sick. Now, the thing that's interesting about it is like that'll change so the next race is like the ocean race. So instead of sand, they'll be like dashing through like low water and like dunes and stuff. So it'll be like a different like environmental challenge, I guess you could say. So I think that's going to be exciting. But yeah, it's it was definitely more rally than race in my mind.
Yeah, it was much shorter than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, it was only 20 kilometers or so.
So I think that in my mind, I was like, oh, like I expected this to be a longer.
Right. Speaking of sprint races, right?
Yeah. And so, because they did what, like 4 laps around their track or something like that?
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I thought it was cool, though. I thought it was an interesting thing, and I think it'll be cool watching these cars in the different environments. I also thought it was pretty cool that there were some women drivers on the teams. I thought that was like a kind of cool thing. You don't see that like crossover, I guess, in a lot of sports where you have men and women competing together and against each other and whatnot. So I thought that was kind of cool that some of the teams had some female drivers, and the team that actually won this race had one of those female drivers.
So, I think each team is male female.
Oh, is it?
I think so. Yeah. Which to your point, it's super interesting. I like that. I like that element of it.
Gotcha. I didn't pick up based on what I saw that it was that way. I'm not surprised since I saw that it was like male female on some of the teams. But that was something that I thought was pretty cool. I was like, oh, makes it adds a little extra twist to it. And you get to see some of those competitive women racing as well that I feel like more rarely get to see in most racing sports. I mean, you do have the occasional, the Danica Patrick, and there's some other women racers out there, but I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, shit.
What?
All right, so ABT Cupra XE, male, female. Akionia Signs XE team, male, female. Andretti United, male, female. Hispano Suiza Energy team, male, female.
Okay.
JBXE with Jensen Button, male, female. Rosberg X Racing, male, female.
Okay.
Segi TV Chip Ganassi Racing, male, female. Veloci Racing, male, female. And X44, your boy Lewis Hamilton's team, male, female. Something tells me that was on purpose.
I have a feeling it was. But
this is how clueless we are. So, bear with us. We're learning.
Still cool nonetheless. I think that's a neat addition to this compared to wait. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure that's Carlos Sainz's dad.
Is it?
Yeah. Is that like what you're like spooked though? Yeah, that's definitely his dad.
Wild.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz, arguably one of the greatest rally drivers of all time. So yeah, it is more of a rally style, I guess.
Right. Yeah, these guys all look like they've come from very successful other careers. Like, I don't know any of these other names, but they all look like very good drivers.
Yeah, well, and it also makes sense because there are a lot of the teams that have been sponsored or kind of put on by former racers, like Jensen Button with his JBXE Racing. Rosberg, like Nico Rosberg. You've got Jensen Button. You've got Carlos Sainz's dad. Chip Ganassi Racing is, I'm 95% sure, in F2.
Okay. Doesn't Ganassi, don't they have an IndyCar team too?
Probably. Chip Ganassi Racing. Oh, or maybe that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, so they're in IndyCar, NASCAR, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championships, which is like the supercars, and then in Extreme E.
Dude, look at that guy, Mr. Chip Ganassi. Look at that fucking smile.
Hold on, I gotta pull him up real quick.
My man's got the crow's feet and everything. He's got so much money. He has had a smile on his whole fucking life. Yep. He knew he was going to be so rich. He popped out of his mom just fucking cheesing. Dude, those crow's feet are so deep. He has had them since birth, my friend.
Those are born from just excessive smiles.
Bro, that guy literally on the other, like, what he is looking at, in that photo is his giant stack of money that he's about to just go jump into.
Even when he's like looks semi unhappy in some of these pictures, he still looks kind of happy.
I know.
Like there are pictures of this guy where he looks like serious or deep in thought, and he still just looks kind of happy, like a little bit.
Dude,
that's funny.
That's a guy that uses $100 bills to wipe his butthole. Holy shit! Literal holy shit.
Hey man, call me a plumber if that's the case.
Call me a plumber. That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, Lewis has a team. We've got Chip Ganassi, who's into a lot of other racing, Jensen Button, Nico Rosberg. Like, there are a lot of these teams that are have people who are really respectable names in racing, which is cool.
So yeah, it was a sweet maiden voyage, I would say. Pretty exciting to watch. I'm looking forward to I would say the growth of the series. I can't say I'll tune into every race. Well, that's the thing. I'll probably tune into every race. Whether it'll be my favorite thing in the world, who knows? But you know,
I mean,
I'll root for Lewis in whatever he does.
There are also only 4 races, so it's not that hard to tune into all of them.
Right. Yeah. Do you remember the whole? Like Elon fuck my wife joke that TMG had going on?
I do. Chip Ganassi.
Either that or like either that or Lewis, like just being such a stan for Lewis, where it's like oh Lewis fuck my wife, oh Lewis you can have my wife, Lewis drive my car, yo that's it, Lewis drive my car, drive my car, like, and not even my car is in like I have like a Lambo or something, but like, dude, Lewis just drive my Honda.
My other Lambo is a Corolla, so
it is. That's a callback. That's so funny. Lewis, drive my car.
Lewis, he can drive my car anytime.
He can drive my car any day. Never mind. I'm not married. I won't make that joke.
But
I don't know, dude.
Hey,
I don't know.
This Extreme E Championship, I think, is pretty cool. So
yeah, it's sweet.
It's a nice shakeup, change of pace on things for racing. I think it's. I think my biggest curiosity is how it will continue in the future, because I feel like with only 4 races, them being in these 4 different environments and whatnot, are they just going to come back and do those same racetracks in the future, and it's going to become more competitive where drivers are vying for these seats where they're trying to like do it? Is it more of a, hey, this is where electric vehicles have gone, this is the like a way to show that off?
That's what it feels like. It feels like a show thing.
I'm curious to see if it's just like gonna burn out and be like a one year stint, or if it's going to continue on and have some longevity in the racing world. I mean, things like Formula 1, IndyCar, NASCAR, MotoGP, like those things, because of how competitive it is, have a really solid longevity and lasting quality to it, I feel like.
But they all had to start somewhere, right?
They did, absolutely. And a lot of them, especially Formula 1 and like has been going on for so long with like or just like car racing in general, from Le Mans and some of these really historical kind of races, have been really long standing things. So I'm wondering if,
well, even like Formula E, you know, that's like a new thing with a focus on like sustainable energy, and
that's true.
You know,
I'm just curious. I think the longevity of it, it could be a flash in the pan. It could be something that's long standing. It could right now. I just hope. I think it's a really cool concept, and I just hope that it's not just a gimmick that's going to burn out really quickly.
Right.
I would like to see it have some longevity, but I just don't know if it will.
Sure.
I guess.
Sure. No, I think that's fair to say, especially with some of the issues that we saw in the production and with the vehicles.
And with it being a 4-race season, it's hard to...
That's a really good point.
It can be hard to get consistent viewership with such a short number or small number of races, because it's harder to build up that kind of connection to the teams and the racers if you're only seeing them that few times. I think that's one of the benefits that other racing formats kind of have, where they're like you have a long season with lots of races to kind of build that kind of connection or viewership for specific people and racers and whatnot. So
no, I think that's a good point.
Yeah. Interesting nonetheless, though.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see the other locales, some of the other tracks. I think it could be fun to follow, at least for this first season. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and the drifting through the desert was kind of sick.
Yeah, dude, drifting through the ocean, I imagine, looks just as cool.
I think it'll probably be easier to see, too.
Probably. Yeah, a lot less dust. Yeah. That's for sure.
So that'll be cool. Definitely looking forward to that. And the next race, I think, is... what did I see? So it's coming up end of May. So we still have a ways to go.
It's like 2 months. Yeah, which is crazy, to your point. Yeah, like, oh, well, the next thing's like 2 months away.
Yeah, because it's about 2 months, and then it'll be 1 month until the third race, and then 2 months until the fourth race. So they're really long times in between each race, but yeah,
not bad.
We'll see.
Yeah,
fun to check out. Check it out, people. The Extreme E Championships.
Heck yeah, check it out. We're not sponsored by them or anything. It was just fun.
No, we just like racing. So
yeah, dude,
get in on it.
Get in on it, dude. Fucking shred that nerve, man. I was just like right in the pipe, just like curving, man. You should have seen it.
Should have seen it.
Crazy, bro.
But I guess getting into our next big topic, we had a couple of LCS best of fives this past weekend, which was fun as well. So, I guess starting off with Cloud9 Team Liquid, just initial thoughts on the series and how that went. What did you think?
Well, I know I sent the text to you. Throughout the 4 games, there were many instances where it really just looked like Liquid just wasn't there. The mid lane matchup between Perks and Jensen was not as competitive as I thought it was going to be.
That's just Perks, man. Playoff Perks.
Which is disappointing. Because it's not like Jensen hasn't shown up in important games before.
No, definitely.
So yeah, I think overall, I just would have liked to see a more competitive series. I'm a fan of both teams and had been throughout the split. So I would have just liked to see a better series out of Liquid, but Cloud9 played so well. Specifically, the way they drafted, I thought was like particularly disgusting. A lot of those boards, I think, were just straight up won in the pick and ban. Let me remember how many games he played it, but I thought giving, especially in game 4, not that they not that they ever gave him anything, but having Perks on the Lucian was just a terrible idea. He looked amazing on it, and it's a champion that you can abuse for sure.
He's an ADC player.
Right. You know, the best out there.
G2's AD carry coming to play mid lane for Cloud9.
Right, of course he's going to shine on that. Like the Rise game was amazing. I think the Silas back and forth was like interesting. The Seraphine pick I think got the best of them a little bit, but dude, overall it was a pretty clean series from Cloud9, and I don't think Liquid really showed up.
Yeah, I don't think that Liquid looked. Not that they looked unprepared. I just think that Cloud9 was able to outclass them. Like the game that Liquid won was very snowbally. Like they took the lead and then they just like pushed it real fast and won. Like the other games that were a little bit closer in the early game and a little more competitive, I felt like Cloud9 was able to just kind of control the game flow a bit more and build their leads and whatnot. Stompy games are going to get stompy. Like if there's a team gets a big lead early, like it's very easy to just run it and win quickly in this meta, I feel like currently. But I think there's a lot to say about a team that can be in competitive games and make the right macro plays to consistently win, like it seemed as though Cloud9 did when they didn't just get behind too far early.
Well, and even when they were being out macroed by Liquid, they were winning team fights.
Yeah.
Like, they were team fighting so well. Like, it was disgusting, some of the positioning. Like, Sven was getting out.
He's so fucking good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he was demanding so much attention in those fights. Like they couldn't even really look at Perks after a certain point. Like the Rise game,
yeah.
Like they were throwing everything at him on. I think he was playing Jinx.
Yeah,
they were throwing everything at him, and
he died once.
Yeah, dude, there just isn't much that this team is doing wrong, really, ever. Dude, Vulcan had 15 fucking assists in that game. When Cloud9 had 17 kills. What is that? That's 90% kill participation?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's insane, bro. Blabber, a part of 15 kills. 8 kills, 8 assists, that's 16 out of 17. He was there for everything, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think in general, it really highlighted for me how good Vulcan is in this meta, at least. Like, I knew Vulcan was good. We all knew that. We knew he was probably top 3 or 4 supports in NA for like last year and this year, but seeing how he did on, 0-1-11 on the Alistar, 1-2-0 on the Rel and a loss, 0-0-15 on the
even on the Rel, like you can expect some deaths. Like you're engaging, you're supposed to just go in there and die, but he's still like living.
Yeah,
and that's in a loss, obviously, but like
right,
yeah, like you have to go play make. But yeah, to your point. He went 0-0-15 on Thresh and then 0-1-7 on Braum.
Yeah, it's just it's pretty incredible. And I also liked that they they shifted Fudge onto the Scion for 3 games. So I think that that's a little bit of a different look for them as well. Like they've had Fudge play some carry champions and played a top focused game and let Sven and Vulcan kind of just manage the 2v2 on their own with like less jungle pressure. And not that they didn't show any attention towards the top lane in this series, but putting Fudge on a non-carry champion and just letting him play that tank matchup, I think was a slightly different look than what they seem to have been going with, and I think that that's good for if Cloud9 goes to play internationally at MSI. I think that that's a good thing to, I think, prove in a competitive series that he can play different styles. I mean, in game one, they had him on the Renekton and had him on more of a dueling bruiser kind of champion, and then switched back to the Scion. So I thought that was a nice thing to see as well from the series.
And not only, so I was like collecting my thoughts, not only for the top lane, the isolated top lane matchup with Alfari, who played 4 different champions in 4 games.
Which I think is a little bit weird.
Well, not just for a player, but for the team in general. It means they're like, what do we do? But yeah, just having the consistent pick on the Scion gives them just great engage, a stonewall on the top side. So yeah, I think that was a great pick for them. They were just.
It's not going to get banned out either. Scion's not a bannable champion in this meta.
Yeah, so I think overall Cloud9 just way outclassed.
And I hope that we do have a little bit more of a competitive series with whoever faces Cloud9 in the finals. Since this was the, I guess, semifinal technically.
Well, it's going to be
one of the semifinals.
It's going to be TSM against them in the final, right?
Well, TSM has to play Liquid first. So the schedule this upcoming, because that was Liquid's first loss they were in the upper bracket still. So Saturday is TSM versus Liquid.
What is this?
And then Sunday is going to be Cloud9 versus the winner of that series. Because that was Liquid's first loss first series loss in this.
That makes sense.
So if it's double elims, then
okay.
So they'll play TSM in the, I guess, like losers bracket finals.
So then 100 Thieves will play the loser of Liquid TSM?
No.
So they're just done then?
They're just done.
Oh.
Yeah, because that was 100 Thieves' second loss. And whoever would lose in the TSM Liquid series, it would be their second loss as well.
Gotcha. Okay, that was the part of the tournament that I was missing, was the double elim part.
Spoiler alert, everyone. TSM won their series. So we'll get to that.
I mean, fucking surprisingly, dude, they lost to Liquid.
Yeah. I think that is going to be
bedwetters.
I think that's what's actually pretty exciting for me about this upcoming weekend. Because right now, no offense to any of the other teams, I feel pretty confident that Cloud9 is going to win against either team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really, in a sense, concerned about the finals. But I think seeing how TSM has won back-to-back series now after being knocked down to the losers bracket early
momentum.
I think seeing them have this additional matchup versus Liquid, I think that's going to be really interesting to see. Team Liquid looked pretty sloppy, or not sloppy, they just didn't look at top form against Cloud9, and I think this will be more of a testament to whether that's because Cloud9 is just a bit better and beat up on them a little bit, or whether Liquid just maybe had a bad day or something. And same with TSM. They've won both their series after losing to Liquid. They won 3-1 in both of their next series. maybe TSM just had a bad day against Liquid the first matchup. I think that's cool to see them get a second opportunity against Liquid in a best of 5 series again. So you look a little confused.
No, I'm not confused. I just I just kind of hope that it goes better this time. Because it wasn't that great the first time around, and I would like to see them get to the final boss of Cloud9. But I think Jensen may be too much.
The Zillion pick, man.
Yeah, Game 5 Zillion pick.
Silver Scrapes playing in my fucking brain.
Dude, that's all I crave for every weekend is just 3 Silver Scrapes. Well, I guess 2, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
2 in this sense. Earlier
2 Silver Scrapes.
Yeah.
I wonder if that guy just claws his eyes out when he hears that song.
Absolutely not. He's raking in cash.
That's true.
Do you remember the original reason that happened? That Silver Scrapes became the best of 5 Game 5 song?
At one point, I probably did know this. Yeah, okay. Go ahead and tell me.
So I actually was watching the stream when it happened, and this was, I forget how many years. This is 6 years ago or something like that. But the LCS had a best of 5 series. They were just playing it was before they had the Pentakill and those other the KDA music groups that Riot has created music for and whatnot. But they would play different songs, and somehow there was a long pause for one of the matchups, and Silver Scrapes for whatever reason was on, and it just was looping on repeat.
Oh fuck, that's funny.
For 45 minutes or something ridiculous like that.
Gotcha.
And so this the artist didn't even know that this was happening. He had people reach out to him and be like, "Yo, man, your song is playing on loop for this series." That's paused and had, I think it was some sort of technical bug or something like that. And the dude was like, wait, what? And the song just, people liked it. So it ended up becoming that Game 5, intense moment song that Riot uses for those.
Gotcha.
Situations.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I never realized that. I had seen I remember seeing the little whatcha-hoogie that they did, when they went and interviewed him. I guess I forget that.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think it had to be 6 years ago. Something like that.
I'm guessing that was, I don't know. 6 years ago would have been 2015.
Yeah, somewhere around then.
Gotcha. Interesting. Man, that's crazy. Danny McCarthy, shout out to you there, guy.
Yeah, but
back when Doublelift was still playing and Bjergsen wasn't a coach. The golden years, man. The golden years.
And the NA production value hasn't improved since. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Maybe a smidge at least.
They're not playing the same song on loop for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
That's true. That's
in
true.
Between
do you remember the big pause at Worlds out in California?
Actually, not really.
When they were playing all the, I think it was playing all the playoff stage games outside.
No. Why do I not remember this?
It was the year I forget who won that year, but there was a really long pause that Damon and the other big guy, the other guy that he was always on with, he had 2 names. What was his name?
Joe Miller. Don't call me Joe Miller.
Yes, or sorry, that guy.
Joe. Don't call me Joe Miller. That's what.
Yes, that guy. Him and Damon.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure is just nice and retired with his wife and kids at this point.
Well, the two of them,
I think they went to go cast like
they went
Overwatch or CS:GO,
to,
right?
yeah, they shifted over.
Yeah. Shout out those guys, great casters.
Phenomenal. Yeah, they really did an awesome job of it. I think Joe Miller may still cast. I don't know.
Don't call me Joe Miller, Joe Miller.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and him and Damon D-Man, however you say it. Yeah, they killed it. That's just some more sprinkling in the nostalgia right there.
The deep lore, dude. The deep lore.
But I guess talking about TSM, talking about them going up against Liquid this coming weekend in that semifinals matchup, they look pretty solid. I was overall.
They look better than they did in the first Liquid series.
They did, and I think
the pick ban was stronger.
Pick ban was definitely stronger. 100 Thieves
sucks.
It was tough. Like it was a similar matchup in my mind to the Cloud9 Liquid series. Like I felt as though TSM just kind of had the upper hand, especially in the draft phase and everything. I didn't feel like 100 Thieves was extremely competitive in that. I think they played the games pretty close for what it was, but with their drafts overall, I think that they painted themselves into a corner a lot with like their win conditions. Playing multiple games of the 380 carry comp essentially with the first one being Jace, Ashe, and Lucian, especially with a Lilia jungle where you don't really like your only tank is your support. The next game, similar thing, Jace, Ashe, Tristana with a Lilia jungle. Like your win conditions are very tough when your goal is to try and essentially poke the other team out a little bit before you start fights. When the other team has so much different engage. I mean, TSM picked the Gnar, the Orianna, the Rel, so you have shockwaves, you have pulls, you have the Gnar ultimate, like the next game, Syndra with the stuns, Alistar with the knockout, the headbutt pulverize, you've got the Gnar ultimate, like TSM was consistently picking solid engage and solid
just team fight in general.
Team fighting, and 100 Thieves, instead of matching them for
they were just like poke comp.
Yeah, and
they like okay, like I get it. Tristana is really strong in the meta right now, but it seems like they were giving away the rest of their draft, other than securing like some top tier junglers. Well, I mean, I wouldn't even call it top tier. So you got Lilia 2 games in a row. You did the Udyr thing in game 3, which helped you win that game with the FBI. But notably, they made the swap. They kept the Jace in the top lane, but they put an AP mid laner. There you go. And then in game 4, they went with the fucking set Tristana. I don't know, man. I think they gave away too much in their drafts to get the Tristana.
I would definitely agree. And I just think in general, like they're like looking at their game 4 lineup, like the set Tristana is just not a super common bot lane right now, and for a reason. It's not that they're bad champions necessarily, but they're just stronger champions. The fact that
and stronger champions together.
The fact that Xayah and Rakan, who are really not heavily, I mean, the Xayah is decently picked right now, but Rakan is not really that meta right now. the fact that that lane beat them,
dude. Zaya and Rakan have so many tools together.
They do, but why are they not picked that frequently then? They're just better options.
Yeah, well, I think the tough thing with Rakan is you put your engage on a squishy guy, but it was okay because you had the Nocturne Udyr as like dive buddies, so right. I think that was okay. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna work out every game. But the Zaya can work every game. The self peel, the CC, she's got insane damage, bro. Late game, she can tap with the best of them.
Yeah, and that's why I directed it a little bit more just at the Rakan pick in general.
Sure.
Just because I think the fact that, like, how far down the list of bot lane matchups do you have to go to get to set Tristana?
Pretty far.
That's decently far down. There's no way. I would have to look at the picks and bans for that last game.
Yeah, I'd want to see what they banned.
Here, I'm gonna.
Could have been like 3 ADs.
I'm gonna pull it up here because I'm curious, but I feel like the likelihood of that having been their only option, essentially, I think is pretty low.
Right.
And the LoL esports site is giving me issues. Oh, there we go.
Hate to see it.
So let's see if they'll show me the picks and bans. There we go. Yeah, so for 80 carries that were banned out, Senna was banned out, of course. Kai'Sa and Jinx were banned out.
Gotcha. Okay, so they did take 3 top tier away.
They did. But it's... The Tristana's not as big of an issue for me as the set.
The set, right.
The only support ban was Alistar. And, I guess... Well, Alistar and Rel. Thresh was open. Nautilus was open.
Yeah. Yeah, that's looking a whole lot more suspect when you have all that.
I think a Thresh would have been much better. You give some protection for your AD carry to help with a little extra escape if there's a dive. Like, you have the Lantern out if the Nocturne decides to go after you. You can peel back, pull your AD carry back. Thresh hooking a Rakan with how squishy he is huge.
Yeah.
Like, Set has to get so close up in your face to be able to do anything.
They did do pretty decent in the early game, if I remember, in like a trade or two. But yeah, overall, it was just a pretty non-impactful little duo that 100 Thieves had picked for the bottom lane in Game 4.
Yeah, and I think at the end of it, because the set was the last thing that was picked, too.
Yeah, so it's clear they were, like, waiting to, like, that was, like, their set piece. They're like, aha, we gotcha.
Yeah, that was their counter pick. They chose set. And so they knew the entire, like, I would have way preferred to see a Thresh there. And I don't know if maybe it's a champion pool issue for Huhi. I don't know. But I think there were better options there that would have given them a higher likelihood of winning. But tough to say. Or winning that game at least. Maybe not the series.
Right. But, no, I think the pick ban was pretty weak in that aspect. I think you're right.
Yeah. So
their focus on the Jace was like funny. It was almost like they were baiting with the Gnar to like, yeah, do whatever you want with the top lane. We're just gonna put him on that, and he'll be fine.
Yeah,
it seemed like
Jace
they were
is like a decent lane counter pick, but you lose so much of that like team fighting potential from it.
Yeah,
your goal is to hopefully just explode someone with a burst of damage and then have a 5v4
shock blast and then hop at them.
Yeah, like that's your goal to win team fights, is to burst someone and just knock them out of the fight. So,
right. Yeah. Overall, pretty weak series from 100 Thieves. I think they were focused on some of the wrong things in the pick and ban, and then TSM just team fought better.
Yeah. So I guess going into this weekend, so we have the TSM Team Liquid, and then winner going to face Cloud9. What are your expectations of the TSM Team Liquid series? I mean, the first series between the two went 3-1 in the favor of Liquid. Do you have expectations for a closer series? Do you think one of the teams looked a bit better that might just send them on pretty easily to the finals?
I think TSM looked better than they did in the Liquid series, but I think it's still going to be a tall order for them to win. If depending on how Team Liquid is picking and banning, if TSM still wants to do just like the 5v5 team fight thing, I mean, I think they just still might have it. Like, they looked really good playing that strategy, and people may be, Team Liquid may be fucking around, man. They may not know what's up.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on the team fighting. I think TSM seems to have built a lot of synergy with those team fighting comps throughout the season.
Yeah.
And they look pretty good. I think that Team Liquid has the better 1v1 matchups in a lot of the different matchups. Like, I would say, really, I mean, I think they have the upper hand in the mid lane. I think that Liquid has the upper hand in the top lane at support. I think AD carry is probably the only one which is like relatively contested. So I think that this series is going to come down a lot to that cohesion and team cohesion to see how they can pull it together, because that can easily the whole can be greater than the sum of its parts.
Right. Gestalt theory.
In that, I had no idea what that was called. I've just heard it said. But but yeah, I really overall, I think that TSM has a really good cohesive unit, and so I think they might be able to outclass Liquid. Or not outclass, but might be able to beat Liquid in that series, potentially. I think it'll be pretty close.
The one thing, and this is like a bit of minutia, but the one thing that I noticed with TSM was they were so ready to pull the trigger on Baron, to the degree that it was like catching 100 Thieves like out. Like
napping. They did it in every game.
Yeah, and I think that was the big difference that I saw in TSM between the two series, is they were like they were just making the decisions and just going with them.
Super decisive.
Right. And not only that, especially when you're playing around the Baron and like knowing how long it's going to take, do you have a quick Baron? It was gusto, and it was like 23, 24, 25 minutes. Like, I liked seeing that, and it was obvious that they knew the steps that they had to take to close a game, and they were willing to do them right when they won a fight. And on top of that, they were winning fights that arguably they shouldn't have been winning based on positioning and just like outplays.
Definitely.
Yeah. Those are like the two big things that I saw.
I don't think Liquid will get caught sleeping like that, but
dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. 22 minutes, 23 minutes. If a ward goes out there, it could happen.
Sometimes it's better to make a bad decision as a whole team than it is to make a split decision that's a good idea. Like,
right.
So, and not that the TSM Barons were bad decisions, but sometimes when you have the entire team on board and you just go for something, it just can work out in ways that
you get a little bit of magic, man.
Yeah. And if there's anyone who should be talking about making decisive Baron calls, it's you. So
that's what it is, man. Like, I like that. Like, it's a strong thing to know how to do well, right? And they were doing it really well. Definitely. You know me. I'm a fan of the Baron call. Yeah. But yo, dude, how funny! I saw a meme where it was like 4 panels, and it was Spica on 2 of them, and it was our dragon, I sleep, your Baron, and it was like God mode, and he was like all like lit up and like red eyed and shit. I was like, yo, that's actually hilarious.
I mean, that's really what there were a couple times where they were like, oh, dragon's up, yeah, take that. Like,
but he lost the smite a couple of times was the thing, and he got the Baron steal, which I thought was huge. Arguably, that won them the series. That like gave them the like nail in the coffin.
Yeah,
but just overall, I think much improved on TSMs to the degree that I think it'll like serve them well in the Liquid series. I'm feeling it'll go 3-2. I'm gonna guess TSM just because I'm a stan.
I'm gonna go 3-2 the other way, but I think it's gonna be a really close series. I just think
if Jensen's picking Ahri, you're fucked.
I just think that Liquid has the better matchup in most of the 1v1s, and I think that will come into play decently. I don't think that Liquid will be caught sleeping as much as 100 Thieves was by TSM. So I think that there will be a lot more
congestion, I think would be the word there.
The different objectives will be contested much more.
Yeah, that sounds good too.
Yeah. So nice. I think that they'll force some more fights that 100 Thieves wasn't able to and be able to come out on top because of that. But
okay. Solid analysis.
Either way, would it really be NALCS or LCS if it wasn't?
Yeah, if it wasn't
TSM,
just like
Liquid and C9 at the top. It's been that way for as long as I can remember.
And even after it felt like a different kind of like split. It felt like Dignitas, evil geniuses, and then it all just shook out, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, there was. It's
Pobelter still sucks.
What is that LEC meme that it's like something and G2 wins the championship or whatever it is? Like,
that's funny. That's actually hilarious. Well, it used to be Fnatic back in the day.
I think it's switched over, but it for years it's been just like those two. It's like something and one of these teams wins it.
Right.
All.
Right.
So
Jesus, man.
Well, if we want to start moving towards the deck tech, I have to hit the restroom real quick, but if you want to give a little intro to the deck that we'll be talking about.
Can do.
Cool. Be right back.
I would love to. All right, so this evening we're taking a look at my Yarok the Desecrated deck. It's one of my Commander 9 decks, kind of like one of my favorites, one of the ones that's taken a while to hone, I guess. I never really knew the strategy. In Magic, everybody knows the joke. Like, Sultai good stuff is the easiest thing. Green, black, blue, pretty standard, strong color combination. In like one of the bigger decks in the format, you just add white and you have the you have the thing. So Yarok has taken me a little longer to put together, and like kind of find where I want to go with it. But this is primarily a like graveyard value, trying to win with a big exsanguinate or a stream of thought after generating a bunch of blue mana to just like mill out the table. So exsanguinate and stream are like the two win conditions, and then we just have a bunch of like enter the battlefield value to try and get there. Now, I'm going to hand it off to Aaron as I go grab my phone and my deck. We just talked a little bit about what's going on, and we'll get your impressions about what you think about just overall what you see, what you think's going on.
Cool. All right, people. So it's my time to shine. So we got Yarok the Desecrated. So he is a tricolor deck. So we've got black, green, and blue going on here. I'm sure Justin mentioned that. We've got 2 Planeswalkers in the deck, which are some pretty strong cards. You've got Tamio, the Collector of Tales, and Vraska, the Golgari Queen. A lot of different creatures throughout the deck, so I feel like this is going to be a more creature-based deck. I would have to look a little more individually, but you do have a good mix of counter spells coming throughout. A few different ways to kind of destroy creatures and draw cards throughout. Yeah, so let's see here.
I'd heard you say a creature-based deck, and you're right.
Yes.
Because his ability, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect. So his ability, he says, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So basically,
trigger a lot there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
I'm triggered.
It's trigger. I'm triggered. I'm so triggered by all the triggers. The idea is to have creatures hit the battlefield and lands hit the battlefield and some enchantments, and just like double the value of what I was originally going to get. And shout out Aaron Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. That came in one of your Commander Legends packs, so you got me. This is a great card. So it says the legend rule doesn't apply, and I can have him enter as a copy of Yarok. So when things hit the battlefield, copy, and then I get the original thing. So I'm just getting all sorts of value when things hit the battlefield, primarily creatures.
Okay.
Those 2 Planeswalkers are in there. Tamio is in there to help fill up my graveyard and buy things back with her -3. So the +1 is basically just put 4 cards into your graveyard, and you have a chance at getting 1 back, and then -3 is just grab something out of your graveyard. And then Vraska is just destroy, hopefully like an early game mana rock, and then her +2 is just some value. I can sack off lands, draw cards to hopefully get to my more win related cards. So she's more of like a value piece. Tammy is like a graveyard piece, and then everything else is ramp, some removal in the instance, and then a pretty good tutor package. But yeah, other than that, it functions like a graveyard value deck.
Okay, so give me, I guess, an example of Yarok triggering the ability of a permanent you control. I'm still a little shaky on his ability and how that actually plays out in a deck.
Okay. So have a couple of examples here. I'll just grab 3 creatures out.
Cool.
So, let's say it is turn 6. I have Yarok out. He's on the battlefield, and I have a whole bunch of mana to work with. I'm gonna try and get some things done, right? So I'm gonna cast Eternal Witness, put her on the battlefield. She says, when he enters the battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So I'm going to get one of those, and then because it entered the battlefield, it's a permanent entering the battlefield, and it's triggering its own ability, I'll get a second one. So from my graveyard, I can pull 2 cards out instead of 1.
Okay, so it doubles up abilities that are laid down during that turn, essentially.
And specifically things like hitting the battlefield.
Okay.
Specifically things like coming in.
It can't be an instant. It would have to be like an artifact. It would have to be a creature. It would have to be something like that.
Right.
Okay.
So a lot of the things that I'm getting doubles of are basically just like draw cards, return things, and ramp.
Gotcha.
It's not that exciting, but it does accelerate me really fast. This is, and you'll see these guys again, but this is one of my favorite combos. So you have Vigian Graph Mage and Incubation Druid. So if Incubation Druid has a +1/+1 counter, she can tap for 3 mana. Vigian Graph Mage can put +1/+1 counters on things and untap things that have +1/+1 counters. So she can tap for 3 mana with a +1/+1 counter, and then untap for 2. Tap for 3, untap for 2, tap for 3, untap for 2. You can generate infinite blue mana that way. And then you put that into an outlet. What are the outlets? The Exsanguinate or Stream of Thought you can do.
Okay.
And those just can kill the table at once.
All right.
So it is value until we like get to our combo, and it has a bunch of removal, a bunch of interaction to like disrupt my opponents and
so Exsanguinate
stop them from doing their things.
So Exsanguinate would be your combo. So if you are able to get the Vigian Graph Mage and what was it, Eternal Witness? Or
Vigian Graph Mage and the Incubation
Druid on the field, and you have Exsanguinate, you just win.
As long as it doesn't get countered, yeah.
Okay. But that and that says each opponent loses X life, and X would be the number of mana. So you could just build up by doing that little combo with the Vigian Graph Mage and the Incubation Druid.
Like, Ian, what's your life total? 150. All right, drain you for 150.
Yeah. And
whatever number of mana I want is fine,
Whoever is the highest, you just do that and everyone dies unless they have some sort of counter.
Right. So then that's one way to do it, and then you always want to have backup in your deck. So you could also do it with the Stream of Thought, where instead of draining their life, you just drain out their libraries. They have no more cards left.
Gotcha.
That, though, is a less preferred strategy. I'm sure there are some people listening right now saying, but what about Shuffle Titans? And yeah, that's why it's not like the most...
that's why it's your plan B.
Right, exactly. It's a plan B that's in there. And I know none of us have Eldrazi. So what a Shuffle Titan is, it says, if this thing hits your graveyard, shuffle it and the rest of your graveyard back into your library. So like you can't mill somebody out because it'll always like reshuffle.
Gotcha.
Nobody in our play group has those, so it doesn't matter. I can play that card. I'm safe.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that's my redundancy to win with my oodles and oodles of mana. But the one thing that I really like about this deck is that it has a good amount of my like alternate arts.
Okay.
So like full art, lands, these are sweet. We have the alternate art, full art, solemn simulacrum. Like, these are just cards that just look insane to me, that are like some of my favorites.
Gotcha.
Field of the Dead, really good land. So this is an example of not just a creature, but if this is triggering when Yarok's on the battlefield, because a land is a permanent, I'll get double value off this as well, which makes me zombies when other lands enter. Gotcha. We got the alternate art, Baleful Strix, that came in the Secret Lairs. That was fucking awesome. So, but yeah, just like all sorts of cool stuff in here, art-wise as well.
What are some of your ways that you are countering other people then in this? Like how, so you have, I see you have your instance, you've got a counter spell, a counter squall, and some other instance in this. So what are some ways that you can use those to kind of counter your opponent's win conditions?
All right, so I'm gonna show you one of my favorite little things here. So you name two of them. These are my two counter spells, or two of the big ones anyway, counter spell and counter squall. We've got Assassin's Trophy right here to kill my opponent's things if need be. But we've got a little package here that is quite useful more often than not. Let me find the land here. So we want to be, I'll preface this a little bit. We want to be able to play our turn out, but also have the resources available to stop my opponents if they're going to try and do something stupid like win the game, right? We don't want them doing that.
No. Can't let that happen.
We have cards like Seedborn Muse. So she says, untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. So on every other player's turn, I'm able to untap all my lands, any of my mana rocks, any of my mana creatures. I basically get another turn on each of my opponent's turns.
So that allows
because I untap my mana.
So that allows you to cast instants at that instant speed.
You got it. So we want to have access to her to be able to do stuff on my opponent's turns. We have Alchemist Refuge, which says you may cast non-land cards this turn as though they had flash. That means creatures, sorceries, enchantments. I can activate this and then cast non-instant speed things at instant speed.
Gotcha.
So that helps me do it. And then I grab crop rotation as well, because at instant speed, crop rotation can help me find this land or my Bajuka Bog or any of the other lands that are trying to like interact with my opponents and not just get me value. So pretty much everything in this deck is set up to either be able to use it more than once or use it at an inopportune time for my opponents.
Gotcha.
While generating what they like to call in Magic value. Just drawing cards, having life, having more card advantage, more cards in my graveyard, just have more resources to work with.
Gotcha.
And like I was telling the people, this has taken much longer to put together overall. Just because you get like blue, green, black good stuff is really easy to make. It's so good in Commander. The cards are just far and above red and white as far as the Commander format goes. And when you put them all together in one Commander, it's just super easy to play usually. You really do get access to all the best cards. So I kind of had to figure out, like, what route do I actually want to go with it? And I've since been able to kind of rein it in.
Gives you some more build paths to kind of figure out how you want to or what you want your win conditions to be, as opposed to with certain colors being kind of forced into, like we had talked with white, not having really a ton of options. They're kind of pigeonholed into a certain play style.
Right.
So, gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah, so this is one of my babies. I like all the alternate art in it. and it's just tends to be pretty strong, pretty fun to play. It's a good one.
Awesome. Yeah, seems like a really solid deck because it does kind of cover any weaknesses a lot with those instants and some of the different abilities that you can gain to have those counter spells available. Fan of that. I like that. It gives you a lot of agency for yourself.
Yeah, Yarok is what they like to call a kill on sight commander, where like the turn that I play him, most times he'll die immediately. People don't let it get off the ground too easily at all.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played him and been able to win with him?
I have pulled out, I think 2 victories with Yarok. He has.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and with the Graph Mage combo too, so it can be pretty reliable, especially with all the creature tutors and ways to get access to it. It's tends to be pretty free sometimes. Let me get you the actual number
of win-loss for it.
Yeah, Yarok has won 0 times on the Commander 9, but I know he won recently on webcam.
Gotcha.
So like an unranked victory he has.
Gotcha.
Which obviously isn't as fun, but you know.
Still a win.
It's still a dub. It's still a dub. We're getting there though.
We take those.
Yeah, I know. I was playing Nagila the other night, and I'm very much looking forward to when we get to her for the deck tech. But I was playing Nagila the other night with my new Mana Crypt, and having access to the Mana Crypt actually won me that game. Like, that 2 extra mana was like a big help. And when I played it, Jason was like, "Oh," and Ian didn't say anything. And I'm convinced that from that moment, Ian's been shook, and he's just like, "Oh shit, I gotta step my game up. He's gonna win now." And it's just 1 card in 1 deck, but goddamn, it felt good.
Still, I hope that there are more opportunities that you can win with some cards that they aren't expecting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, because none of us talk about like our new buys, so they always just show up, and you're just like, "Whoa, nice!" You're like, "Yeah," it's always sweet.
Can't wait to see the Pact of Negation come out.
Oh, bro. Me too. That deck, the deck that I put that in, has both Force of Will and Pact of Negation, so that's 2 free counter spells. I'm just rolling in it now, dude. I'm so powerful.
You gotta put them in the
over 9,000, my friend.
I love it. Well, anything else that you wanted to hit on before we wrap this episode up?
No, I don't think so. That's really all I had. I just wanted to hit the F1 topics, the league series, and talk about my Magic deck. That was fun. Anything else for you, sir?
No, that covers everything. Really looking forward to this week's LCS matchups. I'm curious to see how that goes. I think there's some pretty big expectations based on the orgs that are in it between TSM Liquid and C9. So it should be pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree.
There we go.
That has been the tall and short of it, everybody. Peace out.
Later, guys.